Welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the Committee on Public Safety, Intergovernmental, and Military Affairs on this 26th of January at 3 o'clock in room 225. We have four bills on the agenda, but I just have to make some announcements that this hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. If we run into any kind of technical difficulties, particularly for those who are joining us via Zoom, we may have to reschedule. If we do, we will definitely put up a public notice to do so. Each testifier is limited to 2 minutes for their testimony, and we will get underway with Senate Bill 2236 relating to law enforcement. First on our testifiers list, we have Michael Vincent from the Department of Law Enforcement.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Elefante, Senator Rhodes. We just have some comments on this bill. The law enforcement officers of the Department of Law Enforcement are already doing this, and the only comment that we had was a concern and a request that you remove the requirement that the names of the officers be identified on the notice that's left on the property that's searched. Depending on the size of the search, it could be just a couple officers, it could be a whole slew of officers. But all of those names would be in police reports and available to the individual that owns the premises or is responsible for that the search warrant is issued on. They would be able to get those names from the police reports later on. So the information on the notice would at least get them to where they need to be so they could get that information. So that was the only comment that we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Haley Cheng from the Office of the Public Defender has provided testimony support. Carrie Ann Shirota from ACLU.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Karen Shibota, ACLU. We strongly support this measure. As you know, our constitutional right under the Fourth Amendment to live free of unreasonable searches and seizures is one of our most precious rights. Anytime that the government, whether it's a warrant search or a warrantless search, particularly warrantless, and we have a gentleman here who's going to tell his compelling story, at minimum, we need to provide notice and to put the onus upon law enforcement to secure their property. You can imagine a situation if they go in, it's not secured, somebody else could come in, steal things, someone can get harmed. So these are the minimum requirements that we ask that you support. And we support this also because this would require law enforcement statewide. So it wouldn't just be from county to county, police department discretionary. So we ask that you support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2236? Yes. Oh, can you come forward?
Okay.
Yep. Oh, please introduce yourself and share your thoughts.
My name is Glenn Murray, and this bill is my story. And I gave every senator a packet, so I don't think I need to go over the events, you know what I mean, of what transpired, and because it's well documented. But I would just like to present that going through this journey was an ordeal. It was a hardship on me. I'm battling cancer and I have one eye. To get all the documentation that I supplied to you and the other senators was not only a physical, mental, but it was an economic hardship on me. And the purpose of this bill is to prevent or to help other people so they don't have to go through the same thing that I had to. It's quite exhausting. I'm just gonna wrap it up and just talk from my heart. It was so exhausting that I had to be prescribed medication for high anxiety and stress by my PCP, you know, because I didn't know what was going on initially. And even when I found out, I didn't trust that PCP would break down my door and come in again. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what they're up to. But when I got more information, which if I had in the beginning, could have calmed me, you know what I mean? And then I wouldn't have been as stressed out as I was later on. So that's the important thing. Don't be a thief in the night. Give the information, so especially a callback number, the report number. And yes, we do want the officers and the law. We're not sheriffs anymore, but we do want their name. You know, they have to be held accountable. And a lot of their names go with reports, so we want their names. They have their names on their, you know, their uniforms. So I'll end it by this. Our law enforcement agencies, and this bill should encompass everybody. I don't want to pick on HPD. All our law enforcement agencies, the newly formed state law enforcement, our neighbor island police departments, you know, AG investigators, you know, conservation enforcement officers, you know, all the like should be on the even playing ground. What I'll say in the closing is that our law enforcement agencies need to be forthright, honest, and transparent. Please give the people the courtesy and dignity they deserve. Respect our customs, our values, and our ways, which is our local style. And which will promote and develop a partnership through trust and cooperation to fight crime, as we know, is out of control nowadays. So this is just a small bill. Hopefully it'll be a catalyst, you know, for these kind of relationships. And
Thank you, Mr. Murray. We need you to summarize.
okay, and I just humbly ask the senators, stand for the people, stand for justice. That's all I can ask.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
for
and
sharing.
remember this. When you enter our residence, take off your shoes. And it's a very simple thing now. Like the doctors and nurses wear those little tabby type of things. You don't have to take off your shoes, just put it over it. That's our local style.
Okay,
Thank you,
you.
Senator Wakai.
sure.
You're a man of your word. Actually, you promised me to bring it up this year. Thank you.
Let the people's desires be evidence in the democratic process. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2236? If not, members, any questions? Mr. Vincent, just a quick question. In Mr. Moray's testimony, he wanted this to be not for just searches with search warrants, but also warrantless searches. Are you okay with that as well?
So all of the officers involved in these things, their names are in all of the reports. So as long as, you know, there's some notice has to be left. They're exactly right. You know, Hawaii is a unique state. We've got a very specific privacy and other protections in our Constitution that don't exist in other states. We recognize that there are additional protections. So we don't have any problems with this. Just what we're looking at is if you have a situation where you've got a number of officers, now you have an officer in charge, and now has to go chase around who was involved in this, get all their names, all their information, whereas every officer has to actually submit a report, whether it's a follow-up or supplemental that's going with the main report. So the names are going to be there. It's just that notice, they'll be able to get their names, you know, down the road.
Mhm.
That's also.
Okay, one thing that Mr. Murray also wanted to add is that report number. So I agree with you about at the time, we don't need to put the officers' names. I mean, those names can be gathered later, but is it
They'll have a
okay if?
report- Yeah, they'll have a report number at the time, at the scene.
Okay, okay.
That they call it in and they're given the report number immediately. That's not a problem.
Got it. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions? Nope. Okay, we're gonna move on to Senate Bill 2307. This is relating to identification. And first on our testifiers list is Tommy Johnson from Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Elefante, members of the committee. I'm Tommy Johnson, Director of the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I don't know if you got my amended testimony, but in short, I just amended the second paragraph to state that we actually already have one machine up and running at the Alava Correctional Facility, and we're planning to expand statewide. We've been working with the Department of Transportation and the statewide for the motor vehicle licensing administrators statewide as well. We have various MOUs out in various stages of completion with those entities. And so we already have one machine up and running at Halava. We plan to expand to the Women's Community Correctional Center, to the Maui Community Correctional Center, to the HCCC. They will take care of Kalani, and then we'll swing back and we will do Waiava and OCCC.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Keldon Waltgen from the County of Hawaii Prosecuting Attorney's Office has submitted testimony in support. Victor Ramos, an individual, has submitted testimony in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2307? If not, members, questions? Okay, we'll move on to the third measure on the agenda. That is Senate Bill 2346 relating to firearms. And that was a little excitement there for us to announce that bill. On Senate Bill 2346, first to testify, Department of Law Enforcement, Michael Vincent.
Good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair, fellow faculty members of the committee. Department of Law Enforcement supports the bill. We'd like to just recommend that the requirement for rulemaking be removed. If we have to stop and do rulemaking, we're not going to be able to start doing gun buybacks for the way things go, probably 8 to 12 months. However, one of the things that we could do is a legislative report if you'd like some accountability with respect to funds, how they're used, how many guns are bought, and what's done with the monies. And then we're also requesting $825,000 for that, which would cover what we used last time were Foodland gift cards. What we try to do is try to keep the money in the community. Foodland was a grocery store that is here and everybody's there. Also covers the overtime required for like HPD when they were helping us and our officers when they were working on the Saturday during the gun buyback. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vincent. We have Andrew Namiki Roberts, I believe, is joining us via Zoom.
They're
Hi,
unavailable on Zoom.
Okay, but members, Andrew has submitted commentary for this measure. Brian Isaacson has submitted testimony in opposition. Michael Older in support. Andrew Crossland in opposition. Marcus Tanaka commentary. We have Michael Rice, who is going to be joining us via Zoom. Welcome, Michael.
Aloha, Michael Rice, speaking on behalf of myself. Well, I stand opposed to gun buybacks as the idea of reducing guns on the street. I do support the idea of it being a means of getting firearms out of homes or out of the possession of people who otherwise don't know what to do with them. Like if I were to pass away tomorrow, despite what I've told my next of kin, they would have no idea what to do with my firearms. They wouldn't know that they need to go down to HPD, give the death certificate, do all this song and dance. So I've submitted in my written testimony a proposal for what I think should be done in this case for firearms that are otherwise legal to sell, meaning they're not connected to a crime, they're not full automatic or something else wrong with them that's illegal. And now it'd basically be for like HPD or for whichever authority is responsible to hold on to the firearm for the individual, give them a printout sheet, like saying, okay, here's the make model that you can give to a gun store so that, the gun store can say, oh yeah, hey, I'll buy this. Cause I looked at the last gun buyback. A lot of the guns there, I saw some very beautiful pieces of work that somebody got a $50 gift card for, and I would have spent $1,000 for in a gun shop easily, more likely $1,200. And these things are just, if at best, they're going to be destroyed otherwise. And that's if they'll wind up in the hands of a corrupt official who, just says they're destroyed and just takes them, puts them on the black market, put them in the back of their truck, you laugh, but that has happened. There's ATF agents that have been convicted of that, as well as police departments on the mainland that have been involved in such gun buybacks where the evidence the gun just disappears into their trunk and it's found later on the streets. Other than that, there's gun buybacks have also been abused by people who make firearms out of pieces of pipe. Two pieces of pipe and an end cap, and I can make a firearm. I can get a $100 gift card for that for $20 worth of work. So people have abused these in the past. I'm just telling you what
Okay.
might happen here, and I yield the rest of my time.
Great, thank you for your commentary, Mr. Rice. Members, we have 18 other individuals who have submitted testimony, all in opposition. We have, I believe, Todd Yakutake, who's going to join us via Zoom. Welcome, Todd.
Aloha, Chair and Public Safety Committee, Todd Yakutake. I offer comments on this bill. Basically, I support the intent of the bill. I believe there are good reasons to have a buyback, like Michael Rice just said. But I just disagree with using taxpayer money to fund it. I don't think that's necessary, and I want to provide an alternative to that. Basically, make it a year-round turn-in where people can turn in their guns to gun stores. When they go to a gun store, they have two options. One of them is the gun store can offer to sell the used gun and offer the person money for it. That's if it's functional and safe and legal. The second option would be the person just turns in the gun to a gun store, no questions asked, and then the gun store later gives it to the police. Either call in a patrol officer or drops it off at the police station. That way, the person turning it in might not feel intimidated by going to the police, which some people might feel, because some of them might feel they'll get arrested or get scolded, things like that. So I think those are two better options, and it satisfies all the reasons for having a gun buyback. Doesn't use taxpayer money, and it provides a way for the person turning in the gun to get more value from it. Couple other things to add is to put in state law that the guns retrieved from the buyback, if any of them are stolen, they will be returned to the lawful owner. That's not in the law. I would like to see that in there. Yeah, basically that. But that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Todd. That's all I have for testifiers. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2346? If not, members, any questions? Mr. Vincent.
Yes, sir.
So you heard what Mr. Yakutake said, that do we really need to use taxpayer money and offer gift cards or whatever? Could we just have people on their time line go to the law enforcement, return the guns, or maybe go to a gun store? I guess that would be like a pawn shop, right? They take the gun back. I mean, is that even possible?
If an individual wants to turn in a gun to the Department of Law Enforcement or any police department, probably can't speak for the counties, but I'm pretty sure they'd be along with us, that we have no problems with that. If an individual wants to sell their guns, they can go to a firearms dealer and do that. But the idea, the statement about if you pass away, what do they do with them? There isn't a quick, easy way for someone who is a survivor of the gun owner to work with somebody. It'd be nice if there was a process in place to help them. And that might be something to look at. I think it's a matter of, what are we trying to accomplish? And there were some beautiful firearms turning. I was there all day on the one across the street on Saturday. I went out and picked some up from a retired police officer who was in his 80s, and he had a number of firearms, and he was afraid if he passed away, what's his wife going to do with them? A lot of them belong in museums. It's that simple. A lot of them belong in museums. There were a lot of clearly illegal firearms. With respect to the question about returning them if they were stolen, all of them are run through the system, and every firearm that was reported stolen, notices have gone out to those owners with an opportunity to reclaim them. So the only ones that are going to be destroyed is they're given a time frame in which to call and make arrangements to get their guns back. But the ones that have been reported stolen, we've reached out to them, and so they could get their firearms back. There's a wide range of things. There were clearly some illegal firearms that were turned in, and there was a lot of the firearms that just family members just didn't know what to do with them. And this was an opportunity where, they could legally bring them down and not be in violation of our firearms statutes. And then we weren't allowing them to turn in things that were not firearms. If there was air rifles, a lot of people were trying to turn in air rifles or air pistols. We were not giving cards for those. If someone had showed up with, a homemade firearm with 2 pipes, no, that would not have been accepted. I know that there's this balance of you're letting, somebody, a criminal now get rid of evidence, but at the same time you're getting guns off the street. So not quite sure how to balance that out, but the object here is let's help the families that are trying to do something with something, dad left, what do we do? And the vast majority was probably in that category. It's like, I got these guns, what do I do here? There are some that came in and I have to buy firearms for our training and for our officers. And there were some, hey, I got to buy some of these. Can I use it? No, you can't. They are locked up and multiple people are locking them up. So, the concern about somebody taking one, we're doing everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. When they're destroyed, multiple people are there. There's multiple things in place to make sure that the firearms that are turned in are in fact being destroyed, except for the ones that were reported stolen and people actually come and pick them up. As far as the taxpayers are looking for something to help with the gun violence in the communities. And this is just one of the things that we can do.
I know the bill is asking for 800,000, I can't remember, the figure was $825,000. And I know it's building off the very successful event you had on Oahu, taking this program to the neighbor islands. But is this something you anticipate like doing on an annual basis?
We would like to be able to do it on an annual basis, a couple times a year on Oahu, Hilo, Kona, once or twice on Maui, Kauai. After the first year, we'll kind of have an idea. But wow, the one day that we did do it, there were a lot of, if you came down here and saw the line of traffic going up Punch Bowl and around the corner down Vineyard, there was a lot of people here, and they were waiting in line for hours to turn them in. So it's clear there's a large chunk of the community who want to turn their firearms in. Mm-hmm. Even though they're turning in firearms that are clearly of significantly greater value than the gift cards that they're going to get for them. Someone who just wants to sell it and make money, they will go through a legitimate process to sell them. They'll go through the gun dealers. They'll find a buyer and go through the legal process of transferring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No? Okay, we're going to move on to our last bill. That is Senate Bill 2444 relating to emergencies. On our testifiers list, we have Brett Clovis has submitted testimony in support. Charmaine Duran has submitted testimony in support. And we have testimony also from Lauren Kim in support, Tony Velasco in support, Daniel Smith in support, and Larry Verrey from the Pro City Neighborhood Board, all in support. Is there anyone? Oh, hi, Angela. Welcome.
Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support. So Senate Bill 2444. Citizens of Pro City are unable to hear the emergency siren, so a new emergency siren is needed so they can be alerted to all civil defense emergencies in a timely manner in order to take necessary safety measures. This piece of legislation appropriates funds for a new outdoor emergency siren in Pro City. When the Maui fire event was taking place,
Angela,
everyone...
maybe we all can read, so maybe you can
Oh.
share your ideas and
Yes,
thoughts on
okay.
this bill.
So everyone put the pressure on the Maui County level emergency management team for not sounding the alarm. But if you look at the law, Hawaii Revised Statute 127, it charters the siren system as the statewide siren system operated by Hawai'i. The state level emergency management team is separate than the county level emergency response team, yet they have to work together, right? So Hawai'i has separate purviews from the Maui County emergency team and the Honolulu emergency response team. Hawaii Revised Statute Chapter 127 says in explicit language, Hawai'i, the state emergency team, shall be responsible to manage the county emergency team. So Title 10, Public Safety and Internal Security 127A, Emergency Management -3E, Hawai'i shall perform emergency management functions within the territorial limits of the state, support county emergency management agencies as requested, coordinate all resource support to the counties, ensure that emergency management plans across the state are coordinated with each other and other state, federal, and local organizations. Hawai'i shall, it must, so this means it must oversee and coordinate the statewide siren warning system, and monitor and issue alerts and warnings and coordinate emergency and disaster response and recovery activities. So, you know, in this process to further update the emergency mitigation plans, while this piece of legislation is working in response to the emergency siren in Pro City, the legislature should also take into account that there should be consideration to upgrade the outdoor emergency sirens, not only in Pro City, but in other cities as well across the state.
Yep, I totally agree, but that's in a separate bill. This
Okay,
one is focused purely on Pacific Palisades and Pearl City. But yeah, we're going to tackle some of those recommendations and issues that you mentioned in other bills.
Okay.
Not this one.
but the rationale is because of the importance of the emergency response to sirens. Yeah.
The rationale is Brandon Elefante wants this for his people and keep them safe, so that's why we're going to hear this bill. Anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 2444? If not, members, any questions for Angela? No, if not, we're going to take a brief recess prior to taking the vote. Welcome back. We're reconvening our Committee on Public Safety, Intergovernmental and Military Affairs for our agenda this 26th of January at 3 o'clock in room 225. On the first measure on the agenda, Senate Bill 2236 relating to law enforcement. Being that everyone is in support of just putting notice for when law enforcement enters a premises, want to pass this bill out, but making a few amendments. The first being that on the notice, we also include the necessity to have a report number, and this will be for completion of searches with a warrant as well as warrantless searches. And we're actually going to take DLE's suggested amendments in their testimony, which was basically to not include the officers' names at the time of notice. Those names can be gotten by the report in follow-up. So those are the suggested amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Elefante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2236 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga is excused. Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Awa.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 2307 relating to identification, we heard from the director that he is starting this process at OCCC. We applaud him for that, but want to make sure that we have it at other correctional facilities and make sure that it's something that we have in statutes. I'd like to pass this measure out as is. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Elafante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2307 as is of the four members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 2346 relating to firearms. This is the buyback program, which was very successful last year. We'd like to see it be successful on the neighbor islands as well. So I'd like to pass this measure out with amendments, and the amendments would be what was suggested by DLE in removing subsection B of section 2 of the bill. And WHAM has asked us to blank out all appropriations, and we're going to put the $825,000 figure into the committee report, and we are going to defect the date so it becomes effective January 1st, 2042. And those are the suggested amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Elafante, I vote yes.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2346 with amendments of the four members present. Any no votes or votes with reservation? No. No vote for Senator Owa. Mr. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. We'll move on to the last bill, that is Senate Bill 2444 relating to emergencies. I think people throughout the state need to have functioning sirens, particularly those in the Pearl City Palisades area. Want to make a few amendments to this measure. Again, blanking out the appropriation in the bill and putting it into the committee report that we'd like to appropriate eventually $200,000 to effectuate the language of this measure and make the effective date January 1st, 2042. Any discussion? If not, yes.
Just want to say thank you for putting this on the agenda. The emergency siren on Palisades has been inoperable for years, and this is a community-driven led effort. So appreciate you hearing it.
Woo, 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 woo. Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, discussion? If not, Senator Elafante, I vote yes.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2444 with amendments, right?
Correct.
With amendments of the four members present, any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, recommendation is adopted.
Great, thank you, members. We are adjourned.